if I got here quicker, which didn't happen because I've been at Elland Road, I was going to start the programme with like a picture of the background, but us not here, but us talking, and say, look, we're wearing the new Featherstone kit for Magic Week at Samoa Bash. But
is it camouflage?
It is camouflage. Great song called Camouflage by Chris Seavey, who was Frank Sidebottom. Just randomly. Welcome to the programme. I've been at Elland Road, so I'm a bit discombobulated. Apparently it's the only place for us, but I don't know. Very nice wedges.
How many people are going to be there on Saturday, do you reckon?
I reckon, he says, perhaps having overheard somebody ask the same question, about 20,000. Should be alright.
Oh, I would have hoped it might be nearer 30. I think it's going to be a brilliant afternoon of rugby league.
They should be, shouldn't it? I guess the problem is Saints and Wigan, they've got to come over to Penrith. It's not that far, but but
that's shaping up to be a terrific encounter.
Huddersfield don't have many supporters, which is not their fault because no one in Huddersfield watches sport. And Hull KR. Actually, Hull KR should sell out because, as we know, all Hull clubs send 7 billion people to Stadia. So,
but of course, you're missing out the opening.
Yes. Well, surely all. I mean, you're going to be there because you're Leeds, but surely all the Leeds people should be there as well to watch.
I would hope that they would want to go and watch the two best women's teams in this hemisphere face each other in what should be a fabulous, meaningful game with a trophy at the end of it.
If you're watching and the picture's choppy, let me know because I don't know what's up with it. It was okay a few weeks ago. Now we've come back live. It seems to be knackered, but I don't know why. But anyway.
It's the 5G mast they've built outside.
What's this? Someone writing a letter about Martin Afire. I've written about Martin Afire in the new Forty20 magazine. Unless it gets cut out. So stay tuned for that.
We're working on it.
Yeah, I mean...
we're working on cutting it out. I'm working on the edit as we speak.
Didn't write millions of things. It should be a good Saturday, shouldn't it? Because 3 games all on the BBC. They've got the scheduling right, having Saints men play straight after Saints women. So hopefully, I imagine the Saints supporters buses will be there from whatever time that kicks off. Doesn't say on the back of the paper. That's good, doesn't it? It says the Challenge Cup semi-finals.
Yes.
It should really say men on them, but we know why they've done it. It's just one of those things.
The women's start.
So I'll make sure I'm there early. Happy Tuesday, says Emma. Happy Tuesday, Emma. Badger, where's Schofield? Needed a Mr. Motivator to keep me going watching from the gym. Will he be there? Has he been invited on? He must be invited, surely. Did he score an interception try there once or something? Or was that was that there?
Yorkshire Cup final, 1988. Best pass he's ever had in his career came from Grant Anderson of Castleford.
Apologies for the terrible feed. I don't know why it's been like that, but it might be my laptop more than anything else. You want to buy a new laptop, then there's thousands of pounds. So it's probably more than you get for winning the Challenge Cup these days, I don't know. But yeah, it should be a great day of rugby, all on the telly if you can't go. I assume it's on the radio as well. And if it isn't, we'll moan about that next week. But yeah, it's 2 interesting semi-finals. We might as well start by talking about those because Wigan Saints now is more interesting than it was because Saints everyone's injured.
Yeah, and their form has been so exceptional, but it's just almost impossible, particularly over the Easter period, to keep it at that level. So they've shown a different side of themselves. Certainly, Morgan Knowles is try-saving, match-saving cover tackle against Salford has been on social media and was the reason why they managed to hold on. But they've looked a little bit more vulnerable over the last 2 or 3 weeks, partly through the squad rotation of choice, which is right. But yeah, I think was it Christian Wolff was saying at the press conference that he probably does expect Johnny Lomax to be fit. Will Hopoate won't be. He's got some fresh players coming back, but Wigan's form has improved. Not that it needed to improve much because they were second. Well, they were hovering around second or third anyway. But there's something about the way they're playing at the moment where Wigan fans can genuinely go with hope that the Good Friday result can be overturned. I don't think after you came away from Good Friday you thought, St Helens odds in winning the Challenge Cup probably justified, or almost unbackable. Interestingly, Wigan have shortened and have moved into, it's almost that semi-final. The two teams are the top two favourites.
That's it.
It's like you might as well give the trophy tomorrow.
Whoever won in the Ronnie O'Sullivan semi was going to win the snooker, so the other people may as well not bother turning up.
That's what the bookies are saying, if you look at the odds. So I think that game is more unpredictable than it would have been 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think what you need in semi-finals are unpredictable players. They're strange games. They can either blow open and be very one-sided, or it takes some genius to split the teams. Wigan will feel confident that with the form that Jaifield and Bevan French are in, they will have a chance. And there's no reason why they shouldn't. It's the intensity of the Saints forwards early in the game that can make or break you, but I don't think Wigan will fear them.
No.
So we should say that would be a great game. BBC One show all the best of what we're about.
As they say to Liam Farrell, which you'll be able to see later if it works. I don't know whether it's today or tomorrow, whenever. There'll be neutrals there. I mean, there should be some neutrals there, but there certainly will be for the Saints Wigan game, because there will be people turning up for Huddersfield versus Hull. And I said, wait, what can you say to convince them to support you against Saints? Because, you know, traditionally we all hate Wigan, but now, you know, Saints win everything. It's boring. The domination is boring, apparently, I heard today.
No, it's not.
When Phil Taylor won the darts the time,
people are very interested. When the great Wigan team of the 80s and 90s were ridiculously dominant, I'm not sure it did a lot for some of the other clubs that were trying to chase them, but in terms of our profile and getting to know the personalities that surrounding the sport, the spotlight was on us. Made Great Britain stronger. We nearly beat the Aussies a couple of times, never quite in a series, and that was because we had a strong, dominant team that the best players were attracted to. Yes. When we talk about the women's game, how many competitive games you have in a season is really interesting. But I do think, if you're a Wigan fan or a neutral, what you will see is a much more competitive game than I think we saw on Good Friday. That will have done Wigan more good, I think, than St Helens.
And we'll certainly have what appears to be a very competitive game following that one at 5 o'clock. Huddersfield versus Hull Kingston Rovers. Only a point separates them in the league table. Huddersfield in better form, having won at Wakefield last week, which seems to be a long time ago now.
Desperately convincing.
No, but Hull KR
over recent weeks
shut out by woeful Leeds. I mean, the JJB is 2 wins from 2 now, and he's not in the job anymore. Left a nice platform for Owen Smith to build on and all that, blah blah blah.
Who was introduced this morning?
I saw it, wearing the hat and everything. He was there, but. That's a fascinating game as well. You would have made Hull KR favourites probably a couple of weeks ago. What did the bookmakers say? And now,
not a lot between them. 6-1, 7-1. Huddersfield just slight favourites. But the big blow for Hull KR is the loss of Lachlan Coote, because as we say in these big games, you do need players that can handle the occasion, and clearly he has been as much of a guiding hand on the field as he has off it. And I think they just needed that steadiness at the back in a game like that. It'll start at a frenetic pace. You need to stay in the game first and foremost, and then try and dictate what you want to do within it. I'm not surprised that Hull KR fell off the perch a little bit this week. I think Tony Smith summed it up when he said, you know, Easter is a period where you are going to have these flat spots, and Easter does not just include the 2 games or even that third. This was the 4th game, and he said, you know, clearly they were. I've not seen a team give away as many forward passes in a match as Hull KR did last Friday night. Part of that is pure fatigue. Your timing is out. They will need to be absolutely at their peak. But I think in players like Ryan Hall, Sean Kenny-Dowell will be coming back. He was rested for the first time in 54 matches. Won't have done him any harm. They are missing Mikey Lewis again, one of those X-factor players. And I think what Huddersfield will have is just discipline. You know, I'm pretty sure that their ace card is their coach, because he's now played in, you know, a qualifying match to get to a grand final and a Challenge Cup semi-final, come out on the right side of the ledger. Both of those times, he's got the formula for what a team needs to do to win a semi-final. So I think Ian Watson is absolutely key in the build-up for Huddersfield. But Hull KR like playing, don't they? And yeah, as we said, for some of these games, it's about not making a mistake. But for Hull KR, it would be, what can we throw at them that they're not expecting? And they won't be as poor as they were on Friday night. And it wouldn't have surprised me, even if subconsciously they had half an eye on that semi-final. It's their biggest game of the season. With the greatest respect to Hull KR, I don't think they're going to win the grand final. I know they went to within a game of it last year. There's nothing to say with them already in the playoff positions that they're not going to kick on. I just think this is their best opportunity to get to a final and really enjoy themselves at Tottenham, because they would be massive underdogs. I just think missing Lachlan Coote is going to be huge for them.
There's no reason not to put the women's final on the back page. So it's going to be a great day. It's going to be a marathon day. It's a bit like going to the Magic Weekend or the Summer Bash. If you haven't been since the thing, it gives you a chance to acclimatise to 3 games in a day again. And it's only in Leeds, so it's not that far.
If you haven't got a ticket, get a ticket. Yeah. You will enjoy. The weather's supposed to be really good. They'll encourage fast open rugby on the pitch. It's a great close atmosphere. 20,000 in there will be fine. I'd hope they'd get near a 25, half fill the stadium.
And it'll look good, because they're not going to open the top tier, so it'll look good.
No, it'll look fine.
Telly. Jodie Cunningham pointed out it's a big wide pitch. Lots of space, so that women's final could have lots of points in, because they've got a lot of space to fill.
Well, I guess the only thing about that is Saints haven't conceded any points in their cup run so far. The interesting thing about that final is you need to be prepared to play in a final. The best way to be prepared is to go through a really tough semi-final. That was between York and Leeds, 2 teams that were almost a thin sliver of paper between them. But because they were so well matched, the intensity was greater than either team will have played this year. And St Helens have got probably the best players on paper. If you look through that side, there's more internationals in their team than there will be in Leeds' team. Therefore, you would expect them to win. But they haven't been put under any pressure at all yet this year. If Leeds can do that, it could be interesting.
Find out if I asked that question when I put the videos up later.
What was the answer? Paraphrasing, because obviously we want people to...
I'm trying to remember now, because it seems so long ago. It was only less than an hour ago. It was pitch side at Elland Road. But it depends on how you want to think about it. But, Saints versus Leeds. It's probably the biggest rivalry.
It is.
That we have, not just in women's rugby league, but in men's rugby. I know you say Saints and Wigan, I know this. But in terms of coming into this season, they've been in the finals for the last couple of years, both pre and the semi-finals pre-COVID as well. So it's a nice little rivalry building up there, and plenty of stories to be told. And Paige Travis's hair, which obviously I did mention this afternoon. And Connie played for England, Connie Winfield Hill.
Did she confirm that she was...
Yeah. I said, did you think when you came over to play rugby league you'd be potentially playing for England? That's the England halfback partnership.
An international in 2 sports.
Yeah. 3 women of steel on the pitch on Saturday even.
Am I right in thinking Georgia Roach has been a woman of steel but has never lifted a trophy?
Yeah, because Cass didn't win anything, did they?
So
it's just hello Cass fans.
Again, interesting. Somebody like her in a pivotal position, game of her domestic life so far, could be the difference.
Did you get all misty-eyed when you saw the office block chain above the office block above the chain sandwich? Always badger. Even more so when I spoke to Radio Leeds' Richard Stead, or Radio Homicide's Richard Stead, as he is at the weekend, I guess. And if you've ever watched I'm Alan Partridge. No, Me Knowing You with Alan Partridge. It's not the Radio Leeds Looney Breakfast Show. It's not called that. And he's not called Keith Hunt either, but he was in good form. We reminisced about him not... Well, I didn't mention him not giving me a job at Yorkshire Radio, but the time that I followed him into the laundry under the old North Stand at Headingley to interview Brian McDermott, which we think was the moment he decided not doing one-on-ones anymore. Not doing that anymore. Always gets stand there. Has Mark abandoned you now? He's famous on Channel 4, says John. No, he abandoned us before then. Died. spoke to Matt last week. He's in good form.
He is. Spoke to him just before the weekend. He's a busy man.
Yeah,
busy man.
Doing good stuff.
He was doing football commentary yesterday,
Probably.
and then he ran off to
everywhere.
do the Premier Rugby League, and he's.
After the last couple of years, for anyone who's a freelance sports broadcaster, it's much better to be busy than not busy. So it's good. He'll be back on as a guest at some point in the future, I'm sure. Emma says, thoughts on the 4 Rhinos lads sent to Cornwall on loan? What do you think of Neil Kelly's comment saying his locally signed squad members need to adapt to being professional players? Well, it's going to be difficult because they're not just adapting to being professionals, but they're adapting to being Rugby League players first and foremost.
I think the issue with Cornwall, again, is that they can't deliver on the initial promise. It's very hard to be competitive when you haven't really got a pool of talent. And if you are, and there's nothing wrong with the laudable idea that you're going to use local players, where are those local players going to come from who are going to be able to play at a semi-professional level? Because what you don't want to do is demean the competition by just saying, we'll pick some rugby union players who were quite good. Maybe the odd guy who played in a local community competition, which isn't the same as playing in the north of England's community competitions, and expect to be competitive at that level. I think that, again, the slight worry is that the 4 kids they've taken on loan from Leeds are just that.
Yeah.
They're academy players, and again, I'm not sure that 4 academy players are going to make too much of a difference in a semi-professional environment. So I think it was brave of Cornwall to pay to have all of their games on our league, because I think you probably did need a season maybe out of the spotlight to try and establish yourself. Their argument would be, well, we've got to give value for money to our sponsors, and also how do you build an audience if people can't see what you're doing? The danger is if you're losing sort of 50-0 or conceding a lot of points every week, then how many of that audience will come and see you? So I think they're at Hunslet, aren't they, this Sunday?
Yeah, I guess at least.
So at least the 4 Leeds lads won't have far to travel.
And I guess at least playing in League One for Cornwall, they're going to actually be guaranteed those fixtures happening, as opposed to if they played reserve grade rugby, which seems to be getting postponed here, there, and everywhere.
But you do say that, and of course we had a West Wales fixture in League One postponed because there wasn't a medical person present, which again is a concern. I think you look at that division, and I think we've been fans of what Coventry Bears, now Midlands Hurricanes, have been doing for a number of years, and even this week they seemed incredibly competitive. Just went down at home to Hunslet. You can chart their rise, and it's taken them 5-6 years to be able to compete at this level, and they're still the best of the development teams. They have beaten some traditional sides, but at the moment, when you look at that league table, West Wales, London Scholars losing by 96 at Keighley, and Cornwall, it's a concern.
Let me read this message, and obviously I'm not going to name the person who sent it to us, and I'll have to redact some bits as I'm reading it, so apologies for my reading comprehension skills. But, so, says our respondent, I am a paramedic. I'm actively working in the NHS and have 10 years experience. Upon hearing the plight of the women's and League One having to have games cancelled due to medical cover, I did some investigation to see if I could throw my hat into the ring. Well, first of all, I was pleased to see that in the RFL's medical operational documents, at the decision of the Chief Medical Officer, it will allow a club to have a paramedic acting as the game day medical / doctor cover. So I sent some emails asking if the correct hoops are jumped, I could be of assistance. This was met with no reply, so I left it. I should have asked for a response to this, I guess. A year or maybe less later, a League One club were advertising for a club doctor / medical cover. In the advert it stated, including nurse practitioner and paramedics with suitable experience. I was elated. Maybe they have realised the potential looking at their healthcare professionals. I found that this involved me personally paying for several courses costing up to £800 plus personal indemnity insurance, all for a game fee of £200. I won't get into the ins and outs of how much I get paid, but I worked some overtime. But if I worked some overtime, I could earn similar to this with less hassle and tax, etc. And I'm a paramedic. How can a doctor be enticed to the League One games or women's games and such to cover them? I can imagine Championship and Super League has financial gains potentially. I would still be involved if it wasn't for the expense of the courses and the time I would have to take off to compete them. Thank you very much for sending that message in. I said I'd butcher it, and I just wanted to read that out because someone took the time to send it to us, and well, there's a reason why perhaps we don't have. And I know there's been the pandemic, and it's been difficult to get people through the courses and the paperwork. So I'm not saying everything's the RFL's fault or anything like that, but just someone who's had the experience of trying to help. And
it's just a concern when semi-professional teams can't get medical cover. Does that mean that their organisation isn't sufficient for them to arrange this far enough in advance? Does it mean that there isn't enough kudos within a League One club to be able to get a medical practitioner to give up an afternoon at a weekend? It's an issue that makes you look unprofessional, and I think it's something that the sport itself does need to look at. There was talk of lowering that medical requirement. I'm not sure that's the way of going about it either. I think you have to have the highest level of medical cover rather than just compromise it to get St John's Ambulance there. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with St John's Ambulance, but they would say they're there to assist. They're not primary medical cover at a semi-professional event. So no, I think it's something that we do need to look at, and it's a terrible look when a club has to call off a game 24 hours before in a semi-professional division because they couldn't find a medical cover. You would also have hoped that there might be other clubs within that division who weren't playing at home that week, who perhaps could, lend or advise that their medical cover might be made available, or even a Super League club who wasn't playing at home that could have access to a doctor that could perhaps with sufficient notice make themselves available, almost like pooling the resource for times when an individual club can't get hold of somebody. We need to do more. We cannot be calling games off at this level for lack of medical cover.
It looks amateurish, which not a word you want to use, but that's how it looks. But there you go. Thank you for that message. Also coming in, here's Tim. Question from me. What's your take on the Wakefield Stadium rebuild? The real deal or another Sir Rodney Walker megadome? No, I believe it will happen. Well, especially when they're not down the main stand, they've got to do something. Otherwise it wouldn't be just a big empty space. So, look, I've said this about Newmarket, I'll say it about this one. I'll believe it when I'm sat in it, but that's not to say that I don't think this will or won't happen. I've got more faith in the people running the club right now than you'd have for the last 30 years. So
I think the process they're going through seems to be slow but sure. I think it will happen. It will happen sooner rather than later.
Same for Castlewood as well. They're going through the same kind of...
Well, I was going to say, the difference at the moment is the local council, through its ability to release some funds for post-COVID renewal in Rugby League, in an area where Rugby League is so important, has offered £2 million to each of those three clubs in that postcode area. And that £2 million in Wakefield's case, allied to compensation payment for not moving to Newmarket, means that they will be able to renew where they currently are. I'm not sure Castleford have reached that point yet. Lovely though the latest set of drawings were.
Newmarket would have been a disaster along the lines of the same where the AJ Bell is just completely in the middle of nowhere with nothing around.
Well, it would have been Durka for Yorkshire cricket.
Yeah.
But it would have been.
It would have been. But what might have been? I remember, I've still got the video somewhere that the council sent out to all the Yorkshire members to say, go and vote for it. And then didn't have the money, did they? But Leeds tied them up. Leeds.
Something to do with having a lease and needed to stick by it.
Leeds.
Lease.
Yorkshire County Cricket Club have gone from strength to strength since then as well. But what I mean, Wakefield. Oh, they've changed now, haven't they? They've changed now. Yeah. It's all right. They'll be sorted. That's all.
Clean slate. It's now called that part of Headingley.
Yeah. Is that who sponsors it?
Yeah.
It's It's amazing how quickly things can turn around, isn't it? You know, before Christmas they were complete shammers, and now everything.
If there is a will and good people,
yeah,
there
and they've got good people there, obviously. But oh dear, and that's Leeds done with. Unless we want to talk more about Leeds, I mean
Rowan Smith's here.
But do you say anything interesting?
Well, it's difficult because he was asked some questions that clearly he had literally got off a plane, walked up a flight of stairs.
Is your uncle coming in?
Sat in front of a screen. No, that wasn't asked. Have you had tea with your uncle? Was asked yet. Has he invited you around for tea? Well, no, I've just got off a plane. He's got a semi-final. But no, he said all the right things. He's taken over a club that is in a better place than perhaps when he was first interviewed about the job.
3 weeks ago, yeah, it's better now.
No, until he meets the players, he's asked about the injury situation. I don't know. I haven't even met a doctor. But
I spoke to JJB yet? No, because I'm here.
Said all the right things. Interestingly, the next two Leeds fixtures are against the two teams they've now moved above in the league table, so they could go on a run, even though they'll get 2 back from the disciplinary and lose 2 from the disciplinary, which he did say was an area he was going to look at. Talked about the style he wanted to play, which is nearer to Uncle Tony than Dad Brian. He's got some ideas about how they should attack, because he's into free flowing, play as you see it.
Oh well, he's going to have the seal of approval then, isn't it? That's good.
Well, no, apparently in here.
I've not read it yet.
Yeah.
I've only got it.
No, don't read anything into those 2 results.
Well,
they're still in crisis.
I mean, in fairness, I'm not against that theory.
You shouldn't read anything into 2 results that come on the back of the Easter period, other than they're playing better than they were. So that's Leeds. To nil any team in any Super League game, no matter how poor the opposition may be, is a feat. To finish with 13 men on the field for the entire 80 minutes is a feat. To be on the right side of the penalty count this year is a feat. I think JJB's done an astonishing job. I think there will need to be the story of what went wrong with the regime before, that needs to be told at some point. And we should say Richard Agar been announced as part of the Samoan coaching setup.
With Bradford tourist boards, Jeff Tuvey, I read, and loads of other people.
And working with Matt Parrish, not replacing Matt Parrish.
So it's all exciting. Scotty's got it right though. That game against Huddersfield was rubbish for Wakefield. It was a rubbish game.
Oh, we've moved on to Wakefield.
No, I've just seen his column just to see what he's saying.
I mean, obviously we haven't seen the highlights of every game, but was there any match this round incredibly entertaining? I mean, clearly Wigan played exceptionally well to win at Warrington. I'm not sure too many Warrington fans are enamoured with the way they're playing at the moment. Wakefield Huddersfield was a hard watch. But
it's always rubbish. I can't remember many great... Even when Tom Johnston scored that try, the famous one that announced him on the scene, that was probably a rubbish game as well. I mean, I was in the studio, so I didn't watch it, but they're never great games.
I mean, Salford deserve a lot of credit for the way that they played against not only St Helens last week, but Wigan the week before. Run the top 2 teams very close.
But I'd almost say that.
But it's almost like their injuries are now taking over from any other story at Salford.
They're at the bottom of the table with Wakefield and Toulouse. I know the players don't think like this and the coaches don't, but as a support, everything, it's all right losing by 4 points to St Helens, but we were dreadful against Wakefield, a game we could have won and would have put some daylight between us, but that's just been negative. I've got to say, Lewis Murphy's putting that ball down, that was worth the it wasn't worth the 80 minutes. What was he doing?
Big game for your boys the week after next.
We've got
Toulouse away.
Oh no!
And then you've got Leeds away.
I know. I might go to that. I don't know. Hopefully I'm working, so I don't have to.
Apparently the Tigers weren't desperately impressive at Catalan.
No, well, I was listening.
But they'd won the 3 games before, so their Easter is in the plus column. And Hull winning, was it now 5 on the trot at home?
They're good now.
Very convincing. Yeah. But you would have some concerns at Toulouse's away form. It's looking as though they're going to be relying on winning enough home matches to stay up. You've now got their coach saying, I don't think we should have relegation, which, if 11 rounds into a 27-round competition, is he coming to the realisation that they're going to need a little bit more and that Corey Norman may not on its own be the panacea. But that makes the game against Wakefield even more important.
It's not going to be on the telly or anything, is it? It's just going to be in the ether where, I suppose, well done to
well, you'll be able to listen to some French radio station.
Yeah, but I can't speak French, so
if you hear Essay Toulouse, you're in trouble.
Well done to Castleford, who did live commentary of their game at Catalans on the internet.
Excellent.
So, the Catalan games, a feed is coming over to this country.
It is.
So why isn't that being put on somewhere?
Well, it should be on YouTube, shouldn't it?
Right, everything's on our league. Schools finals, women, not the women's nines, women's games.
But if you put it on the Super League YouTube channel, branded it up with Betfred and Sky, clearly Sky might have some reservations about the technical quality of it, but if they're not showing the game themselves on their channels, why would they not want it to be seen?
I can pay a fiver to watch Lee versus Sheffield last week or whatever it was. Well, Lee London, I can't remember. Lee always seems to be on pay-per-view on our league, so there's a haphazard thing. So, yes, granted, Sky probably wouldn't want us to pay extra to go watch a Catalans game, which they own the rights to, but it does seem...
But they're not showing it anyway.
No. It's 2022, and a game's been broadcast because I don't think the Castlewood commentator was in France. I mean, I could have asked it. I could ask him. He might not,
No, I suspect he was.
But I know when St Helens have done it, they weren't there. And
But also,
so
if
there is a feed.
Some media operations do have, Hull, I think, and maybe even Hull KR, they have their own, if you like, radio station to commentate on their home matches. You would hope that Wakefield would send their media team to Toulouse, or
media team.
All right.
It's not Hull FC, Phil. Come on.
A person who would be able to broadcast that game.
I do worry that Tom Grant looks a lot like Wakefield's media manager. It is very concerning. I get confused when I'm watching the games. I watched an interview with Rowan, says Badger, where he said, it was Rowan now, because there's too many Smiths, where he said, if you're playing eyes up and you don't know what you're doing, you may as well be playing eyes down. I like to think he's referring to bingo. Kind of like Leeds United in the 70s when Don Murray had the old bingo out in the carpet bowls and Brian Clough threw it in the bin. These pots and pans and stuff. Warrington are in crisis, aren't they? They're rubbish now. They lost 40 points to 22 to Wigan. Very good Wigan performance. Not taking anything away from the Warriors whatsoever here. Obviously, they've moved on very quickly from all the off-field controversy. But I don't know what to make of Warrington. And maybe what we should start by saying is this is now... I'm not writing off Darryl Powell 11 games into a season, but it's successive coaches. It's like you'll see various football clubs or rugby clubs or cricket or whatever, where the coaches change, but everything off the field doesn't change, but the results on the field stay the same. So it can't just be the coaches. There must be something.
I have a feeling. I mean, clearly a lot of people have been issuing the number of players that on the 1st of May you're able to either renegotiate with to give them a new contract, or other clubs can now start talking to them. See, it seems to me that Warrington have as many, if not more, than every other club coming off contract. Now, I don't know how unsettling that is. I don't know if Darryl Powell is already planning his rebuild, and he's been clearly talking to agents and saying, don't bother coming looking for a new deal for your guy because he doesn't figure in my plans. That guy will still get a contract somewhere. We don't have a scarcity of players, so most players whose contracts are up for renewal will still be Rugby League players at the end of it. It's just they may well be playing for other clubs. Darryl could well have been brought in to change a lot more than just bringing in Peter Matautia and Ollie Holmes from Castleford. It could well be that this is the beginning of, I need to get rid before I can rebuild.
Yeah.
I don't know how that affects players when they're on the field, but they're playing uncharacteristically, to use the phrase of Mr. Schofield, if you say, the soft. There seems to be, again, there's a lot of conjecture about their half-back pairing. It's a very expensive half-back pairing. I think Gareth Woodup is one of the ones who may well be off contract at the end of the season. I think he's made it clear that he probably wants to go back to Australia because that's where he's spent the most of his adult life. That's where a lot of his family have grown up. I don't think George Williams and he have fit, which now means they'll go on and win the grand final, and those two will be vying for the man of the match. But if you're looking at it from the outside, I think they have got a lot of players who won't be there next year. And that's filtering through that, and that's understandable in some ways, but I'm not sure the Warrington fans were told when Darryl came in, expect a bit of a down year. It was like, we've got Darryl, we can take that step now to missing out on winning the Holy Grail. It doesn't look like that's going to happen this year.
No.
I wouldn't think
so.
A lot can happen, but I don't think they expect to be outside the playoff places after 11 rounds.
Very strange, very strange.
But for 2 late tries, would have been far more heavily beaten than the scoreline suggests against Wigan.
Very entertaining Wigan. I asked Liam Farrell, what's the difference between last year and this year? And I can't remember what he said.
Did he say Lee Breers?
Well, he looked like he enjoyed himself on Friday, bashing the wall.
He was leading the song against his old club.
Yeah. What's the Warringtons on? They can't remember. James says, with the injuries St Helens have got, I expect it to be a much tougher affair in the Challenge Cup than in Super League against Wigan. I think any of the semi-finalists could be on to a winner. It's good, isn't it? We've got 3 games on Saturday, all of which you can make an argument for either team winning in, which is a very good position to be in.
And clearly the bookies tend not to lose money, and they have got an idea of who the favourites are in each. But you look at each individual game, the odds between the teams are not as far apart as you would think. I think Saints women are probably the strongest favourites within the 3 games. I think if St Helens play like they have played in the major matches that we've seen them play over the last 3 years, they may just have enough. But if Johnny Lomax doesn't play, that use Lomax and Dodd over the course of this period of a lot of games, that takes a lot out of your ability to score points. You then have to make decisions about where does Jack Wellsby play, and does it have an impact if he can't see it from the back, but he's close to the action and it can be slightly blunted. I think Wigan will have gained a lot of confidence over just the way they played over the Easter period. They've looked like a team that is clearly moving forward. Any team that's got Field and French in it, you're not going to back against them. They just need to get them the ball. That's been the issue. We haven't really spoken about Zach Hardaker, but I get the feeling that him not being at Wigan, it hasn't lifted a cloud. I don't think he was a cloud.
He just hasn't changed.
I just think it tells everybody in that group what we're trying to do is more important than one player. So you better tip in for us all, because that's how we're operating at the moment. John Bateman's back in form, which is very important for Wigan. Their goal kicking, which was an Achilles heel last year. Harry Smith's now top of the chart. It was in 95%. He's
not bad, is it?
So if he is called into play, clearly Thomas Lulai out for a while, then. He's learnt, been withdrawn, been told what he needs to do, come back in, looked a different player. Wigan will have every confidence. And then Huddersfield, Hull KR, I just think the difference is when you lose one of your senior players, that has more of an impact where you haven't got as many senior players. So I think you'd make a case for saying that Saints women, Saints men and Huddersfield are justifiable favourites, but you wouldn't be surprised if any one or all of those 3 results were reversed.
Get more headlines.
So get a ticket.
Yeah, get more headlines for Paige Travis's hair.
You've hinted about Paige Travis's
this
hair.
Dino thing it's called.
Oh, is this the
Platts thing? I asked about that because you've got to ask these silly questions.
Well, we have the women's nines on on Sunday.
We seem to have gone well.
Lots of teams, lots of young girls looking up to role models. Lots of what were there were sessions whereby they were given hints and tips about how to be rugby players from stars of the game. Some of whom have recently retired, others of whom are still playing. Catalan Dragons women came over and won their pool, which is brilliant when you think about it. Not too long before we have that mid-season international when England play France, and you want more competitive international teams so that we get even more interest in the World Cup when it comes up. And And there's going to be a 6th wildcard team
Yeah, I don't
in
know
the
who that's
final.
gonna be.
So there were 5 groups, and the top team in each group qualifies. And full credit to Huddersfield, because whilst we expect Leeds, St Helens and York to be the top 3 ranked women's teams, Catalan, brilliant that they got through their pool. Well done Huddersfield, got through theirs. And a wildcard 6 team
Will
will
be
be
an
in the
all-star
final
team, or we don't
in
know.
the 24th of July.
Can't just parachute Salford in because it's Salford, as I saw someone suggest, but I don't know. Not like that.
But it seemed to go very well.
Yeah.
Lots of women and girls there. Ben Westwood flipping burgers in his van.
I'm tempted to go, but it's in Salford. You know, so it's a bugger, isn't it? But yeah,
I might take you.
Might go. I don't think of the
Mind you,
other.
it costs £8 to park,
Yeah,
so I might not.
Anyway, yeah. Park somewhere. Probably cheaper than park in central Manchester and get a tram. Can you get a tram to the AJ Bell? I don't know. You can get one to the new
Can
Sheffield
you get one to
station.
Eccles?
Possibly.
That's on the road.
Elsewhere, I mean, last week we spoke about John Keir being departing from the Bradford Bulls. And the interesting thing with that
Simon Finnegan.
Yeah, this is the interesting thing. Now, there's 2 jobs up in the Championship. 2 clubs who were big in recent history. Bradford more recent than Widnes. But when you see names linked with those jobs and they are coaches from teams which are currently above them in the Championship, I'm not sure you'd want to leave a job... No job's secure in the Championship, but
No.
why would you leave I don't want to name a club just in case people take it the wrong
Well,
way, but why would you leave a job...
Craig Lingard has
Yes.
been linked with...
If you were him, why would you want
With
to
the Bradford
leave
job.
Batley, where you've got a nice job going and you've got a nice, well-run club,
He's
to
doing
go
a
to 2 clubs
fantastic job.
who are not at the minute in good position?
He's also a noted columnist, which is why I mentioned him
Of
clearly.
course. I just didn't want to, but he was the name.
The thing is, it looks to me that
You're not his agent, are you, as well?
I don't
Say, "Oh,
mind.
great,
I
he's
don't
great."
mind. He's great. It looks to me as though both of those clubs, Bradford and Widnes, need somebody who is more than a coach. Needs somebody who is almost expected to be their front office in many ways, and somebody who can galvanise all the sections of the club. So that they are going to have to take an interest in that club's foundation. They are going to have to be involved in the reserve grade and the academy. There's lots of things that you probably wouldn't have to do if you were just there as the coach of the first team to move the clubs forward, because they do seem to have stalled. They're going to have to be involved in the youth development side of the club. They're going to need to start bringing some of their own players through almost as quickly as it's possible to do that. They're not going to be able to rely on loan signings solely. And there aren't many people out there that can do that holistic role. One who perhaps could is Richard Agar. Now, I don't know if his name's been linked with the Bradford job.
Can he go and loan from Leeds? It's kind of like loan coach.
There are links between those 2 clubs. I don't know whether Richard would even be interested in that, but it's almost like we need your help. We need you to build the club as well as being a very good first team coach, which he clearly would be in that division. So I don't know. I think both clubs are at a point where they cannot catch what Featherstone and Lee are doing this year. So it's almost as if they're treading water. So get somebody in who can say, right, we need to spend a bit of money in the back office, we need to spend a little bit of money in the front office, we need to decide what our recruitment is going to be for next year with players now coming off contract. What is our spend? The really interesting question in the Championship is clearly this is a 2-horse race at the moment, and there's nothing to say that a York or a Batley couldn't cause an upset in a one-off playoff game, but the likelihood is Featherstone and Lee are trying to outdo themselves for one of them to get promoted. So what's going to happen to the team that doesn't get promoted?
As I described it last week, it is very much like one of those parades you see in North Korea where Kim Jong-un stood on his balcony. Well, here's Derek Bowman and here's Mark Campbell, and one brings out one player, one brings out another. Blake Ferguson, the latest of this line. I actually compared this earlier. We were talking about this at Elland Road before everyone turned up. It's very reminiscent speaking of Widnes, so 2007, when they and Castleford both gambled the house on promotion.
Got to the final.
Castleford won. Danny Brough cried in the press conference afterwards. He had to leave Castleford to go to Wakefield. What's wrong with that?
And the following day, Widnes announced they were in administration.
Now, we're not saying that that's going to happen to either Widnes or to either Lee or Featherstone, but it's a dangerous game to play. But that's what happened.
But if you're Bradford, you're looking at what will the scenario be next year.
There's no point wasting money.
So you've got 6 months where you've got to hang on economically, in the knowledge that you probably won't get as many people through the gate that you would have budgeted for, because a lot will say, what's the end game?
Yeah.
But that buys you a little bit of time to say, how do we look at next season? What we're going to invest in it in terms of player contracts? What do we need to do to engage the local council? You know, all of the things that a club needs to do to have some degree of longevity to it. And getting that person in now who can do all of that is probably more important than a coach who's doing well at the moment. You know, somebody like Craig Lingard does that kind of role at Batley. He's not just the coach. You know, he is Mr. Batley, and it's all. I think Bradford and Widnes need a similar sort of person that can give that, you know, attention to detail in all parts of the business. But it'd be interesting to see who they go for.
But Bradford won at the weekend, so it's all right now. Everything's good again. 3 games in the Championship with no attendance given. I think, you know, stadium announcers love the sound of their own voice, and that's a chance for them not to say tonight's attendance is 407. I don't know, but Batley won at Workington 16-10. That sounded like a tough game for them.
Workington's best performance of the season, but again cut adrift a little bit at the bottom now with London winning their first game.
Big win for London against Dewsbury. Is Dane Chisholm staying there? Is he going?
No, he's going to Keighley apparently.
They've got their own arms race in League One, but it's them against themselves because no one else is really throwing money at it. I don't think. I know Rochdale, they've got Ranny Chase and Fufu Moi Moi, but they've been there already, so they're not new. When's Fufu Moi Moi going to retire?
When he's 62.
He's going to play in the World Cup
next year.
The World Cup. He's going to be around. He's going to be on the telly at the World Cup, you'd assume. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, now with the mid-season test being announced, the World Cup has got even more value. There is buy-in from the Southern Hemisphere. New Zealand are going to play a game in New Zealand before the Warriors even do. And the men and the women are going to be playing against Tonga. How fantastic.
I've got my £10 England shirt because they had a sale. I mean, we're not going to be wearing it for the World Cup, but I've got it anyway. So, collector's item.
We've got Pacific tests coming up. We've had...
What's going on?
No, it's great. We've had the women's games being played between Canada and the USA. Yeah. You know, we can talk about international rugby league.
See Nicholas's tattoo, big Canadian tattoo he's got.
Has he?
Yeah.
What, on his forehead? Carsten's coming over, isn't he?
Yes, he's. I need to arrange it for him to come in and be on the programme.
Well, I know he's going to be at Batley in a couple of weeks.
So we'll get him in. We'll work it out somehow. What else happened in the Championship? Lee won, Featherstone won, London won, Halifax won. That was the Championship. But yes, it is a strange division because, as you say, there's 2 teams at the top who are likely going to be in the £1 million game or whatever we're calling it this year. And Workington and London. Dewsbury now in a bit of trouble because of that London win. Yeah, but then the rest of the teams in the middle are all just...
London have pulled Dewsbury and Whitehaven in, I think, a little bit. But the other thing about next year is if you say it's a 2-horse race this year, we don't know what's going to happen to the club that gets relegated and how much resource are they going to do a Hull KR and stay full time, or we don't know. But you look at Newcastle, who have ambitions again. Bit of a treading water season. I thought they'd have been higher up the league, full-time professional, but they're not going to stop putting resource into that. So again, you're Bradford or you're Widnes, and you look round and you go, we're going to have to match the ambitions of a club like Newcastle. York, who we've barely talked about this year, but have flown a little bit under the radar into not only third, but they are a team that on their day absolutely could cause an upset in a playoff game. They're looking very, very solid. But if you assume that it's going to be one of Featherstone and Lee who get promoted, then York are going to be your rivals next year. So I think Bradford in particular have got to decide the level of investment they want to put in to keep faith with their fan base.
Just imagine.
And what they need to do with odds, clearly, which is a millstone that they know about.
Fill it in. Just imagine if
Richard Dunn's staying now, isn't it? It's
iconic.
It's got heritage status.
Everything's iconic in Bradford, apparently.
Well, I think the hope was that they were going to knock that down and build something.
The Bradford Super Stadium. That even predates the Sir Ronnie Walker Megadome. So when Featherstone get promoted and we got Fev, Wakefield and Castle in the same division, it's going to be great. No police leave.
Wakefield definitely not getting relegated.
No, not going to get relegated.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
No, not this week anyway. That's been a couple of weeks. No, I've got faith. League One, North Wales, 6 from 6. They beat West Wales in the Derby of Wales.
Not getting the credit they deserve, I don't think, because you do look at things like a West Wales result and you go, but they've been brilliant. Their game against Swinton over Easter was one of the games of the season. Never mind it being in League One. As
mentioned, Hunslet edging out Midlands, 22-16,
but still not yet in the playoffs, even though they have a game in hand.
Keighley beating London Scores 96-0
on the back of a brilliant 30-0 win against Swinton the week before.
Rochdale beating Cornwall, we mentioned earlier, and Doncaster edging out Oldham 16-12.
But the trouble for a team like Keighley, and I was listening to Rhys Lovegrove being interviewed after this 96-0 win at the weekend. How do you prepare in that division? So 1 week you've got Swinton at home, you've got to get the players up, it's a big game, they're likely challengers, we want to put down a marker. Following week you've got London Scholars at home, and this week you've got to go to West Wales. How does that prepare you? The standard in League One between the traditional halves and the developing have-nots is too great. And I don't know how you bridge that gap. They need the experience, but Keighley need more than winning 96-0 1 week and then going to a team who they're likely to beat by a possible similar score this week. How do you keep your players motivated and in tune to produce the performances when they need it, when your season is so up and down?
It's a shame Hunslet Cornwall comes the day after 3 games in a row at Elland Road, because it's a bit... I fancy going there. And I saw they had a great offer. It's like £25 for hospitality and you get a Cornish pasty. So that's good.
Scully does the hospitality at Hunslet these days.
But it's
Master of ceremonies.
Yeah, but it's
be interested to hear what he's got to say about Cornwall. I don't like playing beyond Sheffield.
I think he was positive about it. Was he positive? Oh no, he wasn't, was he? Because people pulled this up and said, because Scully says something, it's all of us. No, that's not how it works.
He's not an expansionist. In the sense that Sheffield is about as far as he'll go before getting a nosebleed.
Well, I was going to say they've been watching. Was it Hunslet Parkside on the Our League this week? I can't remember. Last week.
No, he wasn't watching it.
Well, no, he doesn't have Our League.
No, he doesn't have a computer, so he's...
doesn't have Our League.
I put teletext on, it's not coming up.
For all those who've got 400 accounts because you keep forgetting your password, God bless you, you're making the numbers look even better, but not Scully's not got one. Nothing else has happened off the pitch, has it, that we need to speak about, although come and speak about? I don't think.
We wish that well.
Yeah, of course. Sheffield Steelers averaged 6,000 people at home this year.
Right.
Which is impressive. But they didn't make it to the playoff final weekend in Nottingham. So their final, we talk about grand final, what if 2 teams get there who are no good and no one turns up? Loads of empty seats at their playoff final, and they priced. I was reading the fans' money because all the tickets have been priced with no concessionary tickets. So I know people complain about ticket prices, but at least we give kids a cheaper ticket. But
lessons to be learned.
Yeah, there's always lessons from elsewhere. And we've got the AB Sundex 1895 Mega Cup semi-finals this week. Both are on Our League. Excellent. At the same time as Hunslet Cornwall. So that's good as well, isn't it? Barrow versus Fev and Lee versus Sheffield. So, again, we're competing with ourselves. I don't know why. Why do you just put those on YouTube, or put Hunslet Cornwall on YouTube, or put something on YouTube?
Or play Hunslet Cornwall at 1 o'clock.
put something on free, easily accessible for everyone.
I think
and both of those are interesting semi-finals.
You'd look at those two games and think clearly they're a favourites. Leigh played Sheffield this week in a league game. Whilst Mark Aston is talking the game up, we've learnt a lot, nothing to lose. We're pretty confident going there. You would think that Leigh would be heavy favourites for that. I suppose the unfortunate thing for Barrow is that they had to play Monday night, so they've got 1 day's less rest. Against a Featherstone team that they can't even fit in all the riches. Jonathan Ford hasn't made his debut yet, I don't think. Again, they're loaning out people like Dane Chisholm and Tom Holmes because of not an embarrassment of riches. They've stockpiled for a specific purpose. So again, I would think we're looking at a Featherstone Leigh opening game at Tottenham, which in terms of crowd attendance, I think if it was Barrow, you'd get a lot of Cumbrians going down there. But Featherstone Leigh, looking to retain their trophy, but also that added it. That's a marker game, isn't it, for the rest of the season? There's a trophy up for grabs between the two teams that are likely to be going for the big prize at the end of the season. The shame, though, is they're also playing at Bash weekend, and we're getting into the realms of they play each other maybe 5 times this season, and that detracts from the rest of the competition because you're just focusing really on those 5. But that would, you get a lot of Leigh and Featherstone fans down in North London.
I hope Leigh are going to have some kind of tiger skin kit for the Summer Bash to go after their owner. It would be perverse and also funny were Leigh never to win the cup when it's sponsored by their owner.
Well, he'll be looking at Dave Whelan having the Super League trophy in 1998 and presenting it to himself.
Brockie's playing in the FA Cup final, did you know that?
I don't think that ever came out, did it?
No.
Yeah, JJB sponsored the not Jamie Jones UK.
No.
There was
a firm, if you wanted to.
There was a firm called JJB Sports.
Yeah, but them used to overpriced football shirts.
Who sponsored the first grand final, which Wigan won, and Dave Whelan stood on one side of the trophy and went congratulations, ran round to the other and went thank you very much, took it over. Wasn't quite like
the lovely.
But you can imagine AB Sundex. I'm sure that Mr. Beaumont would love to give himself his trophy.
Stood next to the Challenge Cup today, and it's still beautiful.
It's glorious. And, glorious. Thank you, Fatarinas.
As is the Women's Cup, which is not quite as grand, but it's can't afford 2 massive cups, so it still looks nice. It's got the thing on top of it. And it'll be there on Saturday, and we'll be there, and it's going to be great. It's going to be a great day for Rugby League. Kevin says, are Featherstone or Leigh, who are both big spenders, going to be financially okay because only one team can go up? Well, if they owners still have the money to put in, then the answer is yes.
That's the unknown.
We won't know until next year, will we?
Exactly.
But it's the same for everyone, isn't it?
If they get to the grand final, £1 million game, whatever you want to call it, then somebody that following morning, with their head pounding from presumably drowning their sorrows, will have some really important decisions to make. There's some very, very heavy contracts which have been signed on a short-term basis where some decisions are going to have to be made.
I just hope,
but it will also depend on who's coming down and what status they're going to adopt.
You just got to hope that we don't start these programmes next year by going, Club X is asking fans to sell bikes and stuff, and
it does go back to what the game wants to be and how it achieves what it wants to be, and if it is going to make any concessions. At this stage, it's a straight 1 up, 1 down. There are no there's no talk of allowing people stays of execution, or so. Knowing the way things have been run over previous years, we will not micromanage the competition. It will be decided on the field. If Toulouse drop out, and all of the potential good that might bring for the game in France and expansion in terms of sponsors and television deals, which to be fair we haven't seen yet, is lost, and a Featherstone or a Leigh come up in their place. Leigh's record in Super League, not great. Featherstone's in a geographical area that some would say already saturated.
possibly.
It raises questions that we could be answering now rather than waiting and seeing what happened. But unless the strategic working group are going to come up with a plan before the end of the season and change everything, we know what 2023 is going to look like.
If Fev go up, at least we can revisit all the festering hatred of Castleford for the mergers and stuff. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. You thought all those anniversaries about the miners' strike. No, it's Fev not being allowed in Super League. It's going to be great.
The local derby every week.
Yeah. Calder, never, Fev forever, and all that crap that everyone said at the time. But, Carl Pratt, all that. So it's all going to be good. I'm sure there's something I was going to mention, and I've completely forgotten what it was now, but it can't have been that important. When's the magazine out? Is it next week?
Yeah, we go to print on Sunday evening after the semi-finals and the women's final. So there'll be a fair bit of midnight oil burning to get it to the printers, and then it'll be with subscribers probably Thursday and in the shops Friday. So
they got something to look forward to. We'll be back again next week to reflect on what's going on. I might not be live on Monday because I'm having a shed put in. It's going to be like Frank's Sidebar Shed Show.
That's more than Wakefield are doing at the moment.
So I'm going to have a luxury shed in the garden where I can put all my stuff.
Is that where you'll reside?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the Wi-Fi will spread that far.
I thought you were going to say I don't know if the wife will let me back in the house.
No, what you want. So I'm just going to live in there with my programmes. So that's going to be good. So we'll be back at some point next week. Stay tuned to the channel because of all the videos from today that'll be going up. Me and Lois reminiscing about our chat after the final in 2019 or whatever it was.
One thing that will be in the magazine is certain people trying out wheelchair rugby league for the first time.
Yes.
And again, there is a footage up there.
Yes.
Where you're interviewing James Simpson, having played it yourself.
Yeah, not in the team, which I'm gutted about.
But did you enjoy it?
Yes, and you know what? I was trying to think of the right way of putting this. I think I played better. No one has seen me play who's watching this programme, so no one knows how bad I was. But I think not having the use of my legs made me a better player, which is not saying much because obviously I wasn't that good. But again, you weren't there, so you don't know. But
this was more about introducing people to the game and having fun.
It was, and that's the key word. It was fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed myself, and
so I think a lot of clubs, particularly through their foundations, are offering tasters. So the message at the end of this programme is: if you get the chance, give it a go.
I was on the pitch with 3 international players,
but
even
even foundations like Sheffield, who are relatively new. In terms of they've revamped their setup and are offering wheelchair now, have taster days on a regular basis. If you're nearby, give it a go.
I mean, we watched those games in Sheffield last year, the international between England and Wales, and you feel the crunch or whatever. And I was very, very hesitant to make any kind of tackles, but which again goes back to my playing career. But it was a wonderful experience to be on the pitch with international players. Something I'll never forget. Go out there and give it a go, and certainly if you've never seen a game, make sure you go and see one, and with the World Cup coming up, get some tickets as well, because it is going to be, I think that's going to be the sleeper thing of Rugby League. I know we pulled up the women's game
again. One of the articles that will be in the magazine is a first interview with the USA wheelchair coach and where they are, because they're debutantes in the World Cup. He is saying that women and wheelchair is the way to crack the US market, not the men's running game. Clearly the USARL, which has gone quiet, which is due to kick off in 2 or 3 weeks, doesn't look like it's going to. Clearly the men's running game has had problems over the last 20 years in establishing itself, whether it's been well run by David New or divided as it appears to be at the moment. But what Juan Jasso, who is the coach, and is part of his job is to develop wheelchair rugby league, he's saying they are getting so many people that want to give it a try. There's a lot of veterans who again perhaps have been invalided in service for the country that are saying, I can play this game. Clear, really? And whilst they don't yet have a domestic league, the number of people they've got coming to their combines to try out is enormous. And I think again, there was a story this week about expressions of interest for the 2025 World Cup. There are more nations saying we want to be involved in the wheelchair and the women's and what will be the youth tournament for the first time than probably there are men's nations who are going to be of a standard to qualify. So if you get down and have a go, you could be playing in a World Cup in 3 years' time.
The chairs are cool. It feels like you're in a dodgem. It is absolutely. You've got to give it a go. You've got to give it a go. If I can go and have a go with all my lack of ability and fitness and everything, my thumb still hurts. But
you're not supposed to put it in spokes, are you?
It's when you watch them turn and you think, how do you do that?
But then you wouldn't expect to be able to do that in session one, would you? But if you had fun,
but I was getting under it.
You might go back.
Yeah, it's good. And that was it. That's
so our message to you.
Go and have a go. Have a go.
Find a taster session.
Yeah.
Give it a go and let us know what you thought.
Wherever you are in the country, go and give it a go. And maybe you'll pick it up. Maybe you'll be a international player. Maybe you'll just enjoy yourself, which is the main thing about everything, because everything's rubbish. So just enjoy yourselves, and hopefully we enjoy ourselves on Saturday with 3 great games at Elland Road or at the semi-finals of the AB 95 thing, or the League One matches, or whatever else is going on this weekend, because there'll be loads of other stuff. But thank you very much for watching. Look out for the magazine next week, but we'll be back after the games at Elland Road in some form. And I think we might be live at Elland Road as well on Saturday, if we can get the Wi-Fi working, which it was earlier today. So who knows? I mean, if the Wi-Fi is better than my laptop's working today, then who knows? We might see you then. But thanks for listening and watching. Do all the things you're supposed to do on YouTube. Thank you very much.